This episode of Podcast Portugal is brought to you by Revolut Business. If you run a company here in Portugal or anywhere across Europe, you already know how painful old-school banking can be, slow transfers, hidden fees, and endless paperwork. Revolut Business changes that. With a Revolut Business account, you can get lightning-fast international payments, multi-currency wallets, and smart expense management all in one app. And here's the best part. When you sign up using our special link, Podcast Portugal receives €400 as a referral bonus. It's a great way to streamline your business finances and support the show at the same time. So if you've been thinking about upgrading your business banking, now's the moment. Just click Revolut Business in the show notes and get started today. Do you have a story, an idea, or a brand the world needs to hear? At Podcast Portugal, we help your message reach an engaged, global audience of English speakers passionate about Portugal. We have nearly 1,000 new subscribers every month and 7,000 downloads per episode. Your ad just doesn't air once, it stays evergreen in our back catalogue. Choose from pre-rolls, mid-rolls, post-rolls, or even full episode sponsorships. Podcast Portugal, Voices of Portugal, Stories for the World. Find out more at podcastportugal.com/contact. This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal. Welcome, Tristan Schetter. I think I've pronounced his name correctly, but he will correct me, I'm sure. Tristan is the visionary behind a really interesting development that's going on in just outside Ericeira. It's all about communal living. It's called Sat Village, and Tristan here is going to tell us a little bit more about it. So, Tristan, can you start telling us what Sat Village is and how the idea first came about?
Oh, Justin. Hey, how's it going? So Sat Village is kind of, very simply speaking, it's me and my wife trying to create the lifestyle that we, would like to raise our children in. And I think it's kind of resonates with a lot of people. Very basically speaking, we would like to live in community, meaning we don't mean by community that you have to do everything together all the time, and then if you don't join the group activity, you kind of get the evil eye. Uh, we we like the idea of living close to neighbors who feel like friends or even family, let's say. And everybody has their own life, their own individual life, but we have a community center where you can connect. And then another factor is that, you know, um, we like the idea of living close to nature and, really being surrounded by nature, but at the same time also being connected to all the amenities and, cities and villages in the area. Um, and then the last thing is that, we're finding, we live in a city at the moment in the Netherlands, and it's in some ways it's made difficult to live healthily. Uh, and I say it with a bit of a wink, just because if you walk into the general supermarket, kind of, it's if you've read up about stuff, it's difficult to find healthy food. And then
Mm.
if you go into the petrol station, there's no food there at all. We're looking for a lifestyle where it's healthy living and food is a part of that, is kind of more accessible and just normal, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, going back a little bit almost, isn't it? Sort of the village
Yeah.
idea. I mean, I have to be honest. I lived in Ericeira and I loved it. It's a really super nice area. It's very popular, and obviously you have the great surf there.
Yeah.
Lots of activities, lots of stuff going on, and living in the center of the village there, which probably would have been a little bit more of the idea that you're talking about, sort of communal living. Almost is a little bit dysfunctional now because they have a lot of alojamento locales, and there's some villages there, some people, and it's also not as convenient as you think, because it's really hard to park sometimes if you're in the center. I'm a great fan because my team used to go to school there. I'm a great fan of sort of parking outside of villages and walking through them. I
Exactly.
don't see why, or riding a bike or something like that.
Exactly.
So what sort of problems do you think communal living solves in today's world?
Well, firstly, I wouldn't call it communal living because that kind of almost
Mhm.
suggests that we all live together in one big house. Um,
Well, I did think that when you first contacted me, I was sort of thinking, okay, this is going to be like a TP complex in the Algarve
yeah, no,
somewhere.
but
It's difficult to balance that, isn't it? That imagery that people
it is, and
instantly have stereotyping in
I
their
think
mind.
it's in that sense, it's kind of a unique thing that we're doing because there are quite a lot of communities in Portugal, and when I say that, I mean the kind of community where we're really gonna do everything different, and in Dutch we say throwing out the baby and the bathwater. And it's like there's some aspects of city life or modern life that we do like, and we like to keep them, and there's some aspects that we don't like. And so we're trying to create the best of both worlds, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because there is probably the question a lot in my mind with living. I mean, we live very remotely and almost too remotely because we have like a 30-40 minute drive to take my team to school in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that can be a little bit of obvious disadvantage. It's not great on fuel and all that kind of stuff if you're looking to be a little bit more green. Um, his village school got closed down. So what choices do we have in this area? And this tends to be this thing where they're sort of bringing all the satellite schools into a central system and all of this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
um,
Well,
which is not
uh,
great.
sorry,
And
just because you did ask a question just now about the what problem we're solving, and I feel like in there's if you just pull it into extremes, you'll have like the city where there's everything and everything is very close and convenient, let's say. And then on the other hand, you've got like the really rural living, like even more than what you just sketched. And to me, it feels in a way that the modern city life is so individualistic that you do kind of end up feeling very lonely in the midst of a crowd.
mm,
Whereas
mhm.
in a smaller village, um, you've got quite a nice connection many times with your neighbors. Um, I've got friends who live in Spain, and they bought a little house in a village somewhere in a mountain, and they've got such a nice connection with their neighbors because you actually need each other, and because you need each other, you're also kind of more civil in a way. And in the city, it's very easy to be like,
Mhm.
whatever. If you're a plumber, yeah, I'll just do a hack job because there are more than enough um, projects out there, and it doesn't matter if I get a bad review. So I think one of the problems we're solving is we're trying to bring people close enough to be in that community and to have that kind of social support system to feel recognized as an individual in the crowd, but then also having your own private house, your own private garden, and not having to, well, like you say, with communal living, like share all the amenities and share the bathroom and have arguments about who cleaned the bathroom or left hair in the shower drain or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually what you're saying is backed up a lot by research. I'm trying to remember the book that I read. It could be Seth Godin Tribes, or I don't remember exactly, but the premise was that humans are basically community animals, and we find a lot of support from that. And there is some studies to suggest that sort of in suburbia or inner cities where you're sort of dislocated from communicating with just the person sitting next to you, there tends to be higher suicide
Mhm.
rates as opposed to interestingly very poor inner city areas where
Yeah.
everybody's living on top of each
Yeah.
other, but the suicide rates tend to be a lot lower, even though their conditions are supposedly much harder. But they put that down to having a good, strong sense of community.
Yeah. I mean,
which I find is
I
very
saw that
interesting.
in the kind of the larger apartment complexes in the poorer side of town here in Rotterdam, where, um, people would borrow a cup of rice or a whatever sugar, and just, sharing in that, um, knowing that the neighbor is needs a bit of help, and, giving them a call or just saying hello on the way, meeting them, it's those small things that matter. And like the really extreme situation is in the city where you're walking along the street, and you're passing by, tens, 10 people, and nobody says hello. Um, yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
That's one of the beautiful things I've often spoken to people here in Portugal is that about Portugal, about Portuguese culture, how everybody says hello to each
Yes,
other.
yes.
You don't need to know anybody. You just go into the local, anywhere, even in the city, and you go into a cafe, you walk in, you say boa tarde or bom dia to
Mhm.
everyone.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Important.
Well,
It's small,
what I
like
like
you
a lot
said, it's
here,
the small things that are
close
important.
to us, is like a little mini market. Um, and I love the mini markets as opposed to the big supermarket. Just one of the factors is that it's owned by a person, yeah, and the person standing behind the counter is most likely the person who owns it. So there's just a totally different energy there. And then the other thing is that, all the little old ladies and old men in the area, eh, part of one of the big events of their day is to, take a walk, which will, takes a long time, obviously, to the mini market, and have a conversation there, you know?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you'll be standing in
It's the
line,
simple
kind of
things,
waiting
right?
for them to have their conversation. But I
Yeah.
love that. That's like so
Yeah.
much back to humanity. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the simple things. We still have it here because I don't think we've kind of, I'm not going to say evolved because it's not really an evolution, but we haven't moved into that thing which is possibly more common in Northern Europe, where supermarkets come in and then they suck in all of the small satellite shops, and
Yeah.
there is no more village
Yeah.
anymore.
Exactly.
Um, it's just easy parking. You go in, you do your stuff. But I agree with you. Like if you go to these small village shops or you go into the small community shops, we could call them, you can actually speak to the owner and say, "Okay, where are my vegetables coming from, please? Can you
Yeah.
actually tell me? Have they been shipped halfway across the world?" Because the labeling sometimes at supermarkets is a little bit unclear. You really have to search. Sometimes I have to lift things up and check the boxes to see where this produce. Where am I buying it? Am I buying it from somewhere which is still using certain chemicals which I don't want to be
Yeah.
ingesting?
It's kind of like the
Um,
privacy agreement on internet. Do you agree? Um, yes,
yeah,
please, because I don't feel like reading for a day.
yeah.
Yeah, in a way, it's getting more in touch with the products that we use. Yeah,
Yeah, and Enniseda actually is a very good area for that kind of stuff. You have many small farm producers there. I think there's even companies now that are delivering food boxes and all that kind of stuff. It's very advanced,
yeah,
so
indeed,
it's very nice.
indeed. Yeah, I think a lot of the people that move
Yeah.
to that area, they kind of have those ideas, and whether it's
Yeah,
in the domain of food or exercise or mental health or design or whatever domain it's in. I think a lot of the people moving, maybe not so much only Ericeira, but also the surrounding areas, they do kind of have
hmm
those values. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Well, everyone's kind of moving on the outskirts of Enniseda as the property,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
trying to sort of get the good value for money, I guess.
exactly.
Um, And how did you go about like creating the? I mean, what gave you the idea? And did you have a piece of land and then thought, what are we going to do with this? Or what was the sort of spark?
Well, it's funny because we never really set out to do this, to be honest. Um, yeah, I do have that background, which makes it easier. Um, but well, actually, Pooja, who's my wife, so Pooja and I set out on a road trip about 4 years ago with the idea to see if Portugal was the place for us. And originally we were kind of, it's maybe a bit typical, but we were looking for an old farm um, with a nice piece of land. And then the idea was, well, let's camp there and then fix it up. And then with time, it could develop into maybe some kind of a retreat center or something, and build a few cabins. So that was kind of the original idea that we set out with. And I really didn't want to get into the whole buying land and developing from scratch because it takes a lot of time and a lot of money also, and it's just a very unpredictable process, let's say. So, but we found it hard to find something affordable in the area that we wanted, and then at some point we kind of chanced upon a yoga center, which has been in that area for quite a while, and yeah, just from the moment we arrived there, there was just such a nice atmosphere, very decent people, nice community surrounding it, and we kind of realized, well, if you go out in the middle of nowhere and start something yourself, it's a whole different process than joining a community that is already doing something. So that was kind of one of the indicators to stay in that area. And then one of our friends there pointed us to a piece of land, and that's actually what got the whole process started because this particular piece of land then allowed us to build more than just one house. In fact, we had to live up to this building regulations and so forth. We had to build more than one house, and so that's what kind of kick-started the idea of creating a small village. Also because we noticed that there were a lot of people in the area who did want to stay there, but it was difficult to find good lodging.
Mm,
A lot of buildings are very expensive and very low quality. As you probably know, there's quite a lot of problems
mm,
with mold. And so, yeah, it was actually kind of life circumstances that step by step brought us to doing this. And I could also say that most of the process I could never have planned for. It's almost as if the building blocks just fall into place one by one. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, I fully. And you know what? It's a really attractive feature because you can buy a new house in Portugal, and you can spend a lot of money. You move in, and then it's got all sorts of
Mm,
problems. I'm not saying it's because of building. I don't know for whatever reason, but sometimes the quality of construction is not probably what you wanted to have for the money you
mhm.
spend. So the idea of what you're doing is basically sort of off plan, isn't it? And so people can how involved can they be in the building process, the design process, the finishings? But they can also make sure that the quality is going to be there, because they've already invested in such an early stage of the build.
Yes, correct. Um, yeah, well, let me just start off by saying so what we're doing is we're building 18 homes, various
Mm,
types of houses, and then we have a community center also. And the idea is that the community center has like a large shared living room, it has a reception area and a yoga room. And then on the first floor, it has a small apartment for the caretaker. And the caretaker is kind of like the manager of the larger complex, and they can take care of any bookings and maintenance. And then your house is your own personal property, including a plot of land surrounding it. And so you own that privately, but then your property is also part of a larger complex. So that's just kind of
mm.
to give give
That's
give a bit
sort of
of
funded
context.
through a maintenance.
Um,
Mm,
then
oh,
you asked about the involvement in the process. So um, I was once involved in a process where we kind of got the community together first, and then we started designing the village. And
mhm.
it was actually part of like a competition, and we ended up second of 30 groups, so not bad. But I always say we lost before we lost. Um, and the reason I say that is because mm, a lot of people like talking about things and sharing ideas, and then they're very enthusiastic and they really mean that. But then when the moment comes to really commit and put your money where your mouth is, the group kind of fell apart in that case. So I'm not saying that always happens, but generally speaking, they're very long processes, and in many cases, they don't end up achieving the result they want. So what I decided is that this time I don't want to I don't want to do it in that way. So we want to do a professional project where when you sign up, what's what. And we're trying to create like the basic framework, and then within that framework, there's a lot of room for personalization. So on the front of the buildings, we have three types of houses, ranging from 40 square meters to 70 square meters, and we have standardized the houses because it saves costs, it makes the building
Hmm.
process more efficient, and it reduces the risk of mistakes. But then we've added in the option that you can kind of choose some packages. So, for instance, you can choose to put in a roof light, or an extra window, or an extra room, extra bedroom. And then there's also the option to customize your kitchen and bathroom. So I think that gives quite a lot of freedom within the confines of a standardized house, let's say.
Yeah, nice.
Um, then we have, yeah,
And sorry, with the no, go on, carry
then
on.
we have the kind of the community space, so the communal building. And what I'm trying to do is to put together kind of the first, like, let's say the group of early adapters, uh, people who say, wow, I love this concept. I want to be part of this. What can I do to help? And I want to get together that group and then as a collective make the decisions for the community space. Because I think that, with more minds, you're going to get more creative, and also, it's going to give us all kind of a sense of ownership of the process. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how we try to find the balance between um, keeping a tight schedule, but also leaving room for freedom.
Yeah. I can think already of a nice idea for that community
Yeah,
space as a crash or a early learning center, because it's so hard for parents. I mean, I'm sure you know as well that for parents to try to do things in the day and get things done, and picking kids up, dropping kids off, picking
yeah.
it's quite difficult. And yeah, I can see something like that would be very
Oh yeah.
ideal
Well, I've
as a
been having a
benefit.
lot of these kind of online video meetings because people have the possibility to
Mm.
book an online meeting with us. And it's so nice getting to know people. And I just spoke to a lady the other day, and she said, I'm not able to have children, but my calling is really working with children. So she says, well, if possible, I would like to, do something in the child support area. So it could be a creche, or it could
Nice.
be, whatever comes from that. But yeah, I agree that that's definitely a large part of it. And also in the design process, we have tried to integrate a lot of ideas around children. So
Hmm.
it's not necessarily the idea that the village should be only families, but we do really like the idea of having, maybe 30 or 40% families with young children. Um, and we will also be starting a school later on in the process to
Ah, okay,
facilitate. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. What sort of, is that an early learning? What sort of ages is that school intended to be?
Yeah, it would probably start off as kind of primary school age groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had I have friends in the Netherlands who started a school a few years ago, and I really like their concept. So they have children of all age groups of primary school together in the class. And I think it was
Yeah.
something like 13 or maximum 15 children in a class, and a lot of personal attention, a lot of freedom for children to to decide their own learning process. Um, and I will say that I haven't made any final decision on what type of learning environment it should be, um, mainly because I'm just trying to focus on the main project at the moment to get that right.
Mm.
But then secondarily, also because I would like to get someone in who's, got experience with that and really knows what they're talking about, so that we
Yeah.
do that very well as well. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, and that it's such a big bonus for parents, busy parents, just to have that thing right on the doorstep of your kids can go to school, walk to school. You imagine?
Oh, yeah.
Can you remember walking to
Well,
school?
yeah. Back in
You
the day,
know,
I,
it's
I had
such
to
a nice
cycle.
thing.
Uh, the Netherlands
Yeah,
is quite a
but still,
quite a cycling culture, you know.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's not. I think it's something that's dying a little bit. Is this for kids to be able to just walk to their local school? It's such a shame, and yeah, no, it's a really really beautiful project. And sort of how whereabouts are you in Edisera? How close are you to the coast? How close are you to the
Yeah.
village?
So, we are about 10 minutes north of Ericeira by car, in a place called Santa Susana, and
Yep.
yeah, we actually got very lucky with the location because um, we're located right next to kind of a protected nature area. So it's a forest with a river down below. Um, and it's nice because we know that the kind of the peace and quiet will stay in the upcoming years. And then we are about 5 minutes by car from the coast. Um, there are a few beaches close by, ranging from kind of beaches that are very difficult to get to, so you have to climb down this difficult rocky road. So it's obviously more quiet and often more prone to locals. But then there's also the beaches that have some cafes and restaurants, um, which are slightly more commercial. Yeah, and but most of them, like you said before, have quite a lot of surfing going on. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so it's what else can I say? Well, we have a mini market very close by. Uh, we're kind of close to a large road, so we are connected, but we're I always say we're kind of at the end um of a little farm road, let's say. Yeah.
Mm. Nice. I mean, there is. I'm going to play devil's advocate
Mm.
here, and sort of, what I think there would be possibly some resentment from Portuguese locals to feel that there was a whole bunch of outsiders all coming in to live together in a closed off compound. How do you? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here. So how do you think you can sort of integrate more with the surrounding Portuguese communities? Is there sort of a collaboration there, and how do you feel like you're not going to be like a gated community and closed off from the surrounding communities?
Yeah, so that's a good point. One thing is that we do intend to also have some Portuguese people moving in. So
Yeah, of
it's
course.
not really our ambition to create like this pocket of expats that don't integrate. Um,
Mm.
and then another thing
Yeah.
is we try to keep this balance between being part of the community but also having your personal choices. And we've created like how can I call it, like a community program, let's say, where you know as a community member, you pay a monthly fee just for the general maintenance and upkeep of the communal
Mm.
facilities. Um, but then at the same time, you have the possibility to participate 3 hours a week. That could be doing some maintenance or it could be sitting at the reception, whatever is needed at that time. And by
Okay.
contributing your 3 hours per week, you can then kind of earn back some of the monthly fee. Um,
Yeah, that's a good
and
idea.
one of the ideas I got a while back, is that um, you know the 3 hours don't necessarily have to be spent within the community, meaning our little village. Um, but they
Mm,
could also be spent in part, helping the larger community in our direct surroundings, let's say. And it can be very simple. It can be, three of us go out and pick up some trash along the road, or it could be fixing some potholes in the area, which
that's
can be
great.
quite a problem
Oh,
and
that's
don't
great.
really don't really get fixed
Yeah.
by the municipality on time. Um, but it
Yeah.
could also be, going to a house of an old lady and whose, house is kind of in a bad state and helping her to paint it. Um, the thing
That's
is
great.
that it's kind of like a different spirit of living, let's say, where
Mm.
we try to promote that you also go out and spend your energy on other things than earning money and taking care of
I think,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah. And then relying on somebody else to do it, and the 10 cent, and then the money disappears.
Exactly, exactly. Someone said it very
No,
well
I
the other
think
day.
that
He
is
said, um, "You kind of gave up the community to have more personal freedom, and then in doing so, you have to buy back the community because now you have to buy back
yeah.
someone who takes care of your child, you buy back someone who takes care of your garden, and so forth." Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and the potholes. No, I fully agree with you. I think that is a really beautiful vision, and I think people actually gain a lot of satisfaction from helping others and being a part of the
Mm.
community. I think that that type of idea, what you're talking about, would be great to spread all through the community in Portugal and even the world. I think I'm a great believer that, it's very hard when we live in a world of global politics and global decisions, and when really we feel a little bit
Oh, yeah.
powerless. And I think our power, if you can call it that, is very much, how can you impact the person just next to you? You start off with your wife, and then your child, and then your neighbor, and then perhaps family members, and you try to create this ripple effect of outgoing energy
Yeah.
waves. I think that's it's exactly what you're saying. Is like, how can we impact our community, and then just outside of our community, and then how does that ripple effect
Yeah,
outwards? And I
and,
think that actually gives power to the people.
it's super empowering, and you get so much back for it. Not necessarily in money or material stuff, let's say, but I sometimes ask people, "What is the thing that makes you the happiest?" And um, kind of our mind will always go to, "Oh, what do I like doing? What kind of sport activity or this kind of stuff?" But one of the things that really makes people happy is sharing and giving. Um, so yeah, I think that should be a large part of the lifestyle. And then, at the same time, I don't want it to be like a forced thing where there has to be like
Yeah.
the village police officer going around saying, "Well, you didn't do your 3 hours a week
You
or
didn't
whatever,"
do your 3
because
hours.
I don't like that kind of energy. It should be free flowing and
Mm.
personal.
Well, I think if you make it clear at the outset that this is the idea that we have, I don't think you're
Yeah.
gonna get
I
someone who's
mean,
gonna
so
sign up
what
and
we've
then
done is we've
secretly go,
we've
"I'm
made
not
it
gonna do
optional.
my
We
3
say,
hours."
well, look, you either pay the monthly fee, and then we have the money to pay someone for those 3 hours, or you participate yourself. And I think
Mm.
ultimately people are going to enjoy participating. Um, so yeah, but it does leave that freedom
It's a good
to
way.
shape life as you like.
Yeah, it's a good way for people to make friends and do stuff together. I like that idea of socializing whilst you're doing
Yes,
things.
yes,
You tick
indeed.
off 2 boxes. So let's get into the nitty gritty a little bit. So how your website is beautiful, by
Thanks.
the way. It's really clear, and the messages are all there, and it's very nice to see. So I know exactly, the process. What is the process, the step by step format now? From somebody who's interested, they can book an online video call with you. Then they do I'm presuming they sort of look into doing plans or something, or they send a deposit, and then the stages, and then when can they move into their beautiful new house?
Yeah, yeah. So, the first thing I always say to people is, we've really gone to the trouble to kind of document the lifestyle that we intend to live, um,
Okay.
in a series of blogs. So I've written about 30 blog posts, which are all on the website, and most of the questions will be answered there. And that is by no means one of these kind of modern ways of saying, well, don't bother me, go and look at the website. It's just that we really took the trouble to put it all on paper. So take a look at that. And then from there on, definitely plan a video meeting and get to know us. We love speaking to people who kind of share these ideas. So whether you end up buying a house or not, that doesn't matter for us. It's just nice to connect with like-minded people. And then so currently um, we're kind of in the phase where we're going out there talking to people, spreading the news, gathering some feedback also. And at the same time, we've gotten the planning permission now for the project. So basically, the project is a go. And for the next step, we have some engineering work that has to be done. So we'll be busy with that until probably more or less the end of the year. So you've got up until that time to orientate yourself. Is the project for me? How am I going to organize it financially? And so forth. And then at the end of the year, we're going to go into the pre-sale, meaning that we're going to pre-sell the houses before they're built. So in the pre-sale phase, we will send you a very detailed information package, and there you will have the opportunity to reserve a plot, choose a housing type, and then to make your choices for the option packages that you would like. Then, just going on the feedback that I'm getting at the moment, I would say that probably we're going to have some sort of a selection process because, we've got
Yeah.
quite a lot of interest. And at the end of the day, it's only 18 houses, actually 17 because Pooja and I will live in one. Um, and then, so once we've selected the community, which I expect will be more or less first quarter of next year, then we can start the construction. And the
Can I
construction
can I
should
just
take
ask a
about
quick
1 year. So very basically speaking, I expect that in two in about 2 years you should be able to move into your house.
Nice. Can I ask a quick
Yeah.
question there? Are you working with a financial institution I'm just trying to think for people raising capital or, perhaps some people might want to take a portion of that as a mortgage and how that
Yeah.
works with a sort of off-plan building and that. Are you working with somebody specifically you can recommend or people find their own funding?
Well, you're always open to find your own funding, so there's definitely no
Mm.
lock-in or anything. Um, I am currently exploring the possibilities with a particular firm. Um, and when we get that kind of core group of community people together, we will dive a little bit deeper into that, just so that it's also for the people buying a house that it's very clear that there's no like financial incentives for me or anything. It's as a
Mm.
measure to kind of help you out and find
Mhm.
your route. So there are possibilities to get a mortgage. I have to always say that I'm not allowed to give any financial advice. But very generally speaking, what I've gotten back from the banks that I've spoken to is that for this type of house, you should be able to get about 70 or 80% loan.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's a part of it that you have to bring in with cash.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, so just I have to always say that I'm not allowed to give financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor. But I
Yeah.
have spoken to some banks, and what I've understood is that for this type of house, you should be able to get about a 70 or 80% loan, meaning that you always have to bring in some of your own capital. Um,
Mhm.
the reason for this, and that's a good bridge just uh, to mention, is that these houses are considered, legally speaking, as vacation homes. Now, uh, there are not too many limitations to a vacation home because you can stay there all year long. So there's not a specific amount of months per year that you're allowed to stay there. But you cannot register there as your home address. So, for some people that might be a limitation. For other people, it's easy to find a solution.
Yeah.
But that
Is
is
that
that is the
because
reason.
is that because of the
Sorry, what
planning?
did you say?
What was the reason for that? Is that because of the
Yeah, that's
planning, the
because of
way
the
that it's
planning
done?
permission. So the legal framework for this type of project is that it's vacation homes which are part of a larger vacation complex. Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the ideas that I was going to ask, and I'm not going to ask it now, is about Portuguese families having an incentive, because I think they'll need to have that as a permanent
Yeah,
residence.
yeah, probably. Yeah, yeah, and
Okay. So what?
yeah. So what we are currently doing is, as I said before, we're trying to get together that first group of kind of community members. And one of the ideas is that I will ask them also to go a little bit deeper in the research on the mortgage possibilities, just because I don't want it to be like muddy waters, in the sense that people might think that I have some financial incentive or whatever. I really have no interest in that part of the process. So I would say that whatever you do, make sure that you work with professional companies, get a financial advisor who really knows what they're on about, and don't try to save, a couple of euros, and then later on find out that you made a big mistake or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. Can I ask what is the actual time allowance that the planning gives you? Because obviously, if it's a vacation home, simply the limitation is that you cannot have it as your registered permanent
correct,
residence in Portugal, but you could potentially live in it on holiday for 365 days a year.
correct. And then one of the
Okay,
added
interesting.
things is that you can actually use it as a postal address for most services. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, you'll have a bill. You're going to have an electricity bill with the electricity bills, etc. You can then go to the bank and open up a bank account. But you cannot have it as a fiscal
exactly,
address. Is that
exactly.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. And do you think that sort of planning limitation is could possibly be changed in the future? Is there some potential for that?
Well, that's kind of speculative. Um,
Mm,
but what I'm seeing in the Netherlands happening now is that, due to the housing crisis, uh, and obviously the lack of houses, a lot of people
yeah.
have kind of been forced to go and live in these vacation home complexes, just to call it that.
Yeah.
And I have, for the last year or so, I have been hearing more and more politicians speak about the idea of possibly just changing those vacation complexes into houses, so which would be an urban complex then ultimately. Um,
Mm,
so who knows what can come from that? But
yeah.
I definitely would never make that promise to people that is going to happen.
Yeah.
What we have
It's good
done in our
you're open
planning,
about it.
in our the design of the village, is we've tried to design um, the, how do you say it? The width of the road and those kind of parameters. We've tried to design it in such a way that one day, it could, if we were able to change it to an urban complex, we would have enough space to make the pavements and everything that is legally required.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And can I make a little bit of a suggestion? And people should probably check on the legality of this. That you there could be a way around it. And I'm sort of thinking, like, if you all part of your community maintenance rented a very very small property, say for, I don't know, 450 euros a month somewhere in the center of Portugal, you could actually all contribute 25 euros a month. That would give you a fiscal address that you could get a.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think that there are kind of
And then
many.
you could give that for free accommodation for a Portuguese family.
Yeah, I think that there are probably many sort of, I'll just call it like sneaky methods to get what you want. Um,
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's
I
definitely
have to
worth
be a little bit
exploring
careful just
because
because I'm also like the promoter of the project, legally speaking, and I
mm,
don't want to get anybody in trouble. You know what I mean?
no,
Um,
I'm kind of joking as well. Let's call it that. I'm
yeah,
just
sure,
joking.
sure.
But I think, but people should check all legal avenues, and I definitely agree with you that there is issues with housing, and I think these types of projects, it's speculative, but I can imagine in the future these things are going to open up
Yeah,
more. It's just,
and you
I
know
just think
what
it
is
makes
also,
a lot of sense.
you know, we our attitude and mentality towards the project is very different from most developers. Um, so we did speak earlier about the quality of housing and that you'll buy a newly built house and the quality will be pretty crappy. So um, we have to live there, and or let's say we have to stay there for 365 days per year. And so, we also have an extra incentive to build the good quality houses. Besides that, we would like to enjoy that ourselves, which is that, we're going to be facing our neighbors. So, um, and then another thing is that
Yeah.
financially speaking, I did have the project evaluated just to get a feel for, what is our relation to market value, and we are selling the houses for quite a bit below the market value, and that's not,
Mm.
you know, we didn't necessarily intend to do it
Sales
that way, but
tactic.
uh, we, we want to keep the project affordable, um, so that it is available not only for the rich and famous, let's say. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, that is something.
Can you give some indication of sort of, I mean, nobody needs to hold you to this price, but so what is the indication of price for a typical
Yeah,
unit?
so these are very general prices at the moment. Once we get through the engineering phase, we will share the definite prices in the information package. But for now, what I can say is that we are aiming for prices between 200,000 and 300,000. Um,
That's reasonable.
200,000 would get you a 40 square meter semi-detached house with a private garden and also your ownership percentage in the communal facilities. And then the 300,000 would get you the 70 square meters fully detached house with a private garden and then also the share in the communal facilities.
Yes. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense in terms of engineering and building and resources. I can imagine that you can buy solar panels in bulk.
Yeah,
That's going to be making savings. You can buy, um, I think it's really cool. I think just the small things like connecting to the grid. I don't know if you are going to or you plan connecting to the
yeah,
grid, but it can be for an individual
yeah.
house
Well,
really expensive to do that. We had crazy quotes for our place here.
did you have electricity in the
Um,
road outside your place, or did you have to bring it from the mains?
yeah, we have it on from the sort of access road to our house, but that's like nearly 200 meters
Yeah. Oh,
away.
yeah. Yeah.
So and somebody had put a cable from there 200 meters to our house, but it was just literally done like a homemade job.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
completely not certified. So we were getting blackouts and all sorts. And I was
Yeah.
like, what is going on? And
Yeah.
until I dug up the cable and it was put together with gaffer tape
Oh
and,
my goodness.
and, sitting in water. So we had to put, well, I just got the local guys to come in, dig a 200-meter trench, meter deep. And then I laid the cable, like a brand new
Uh-huh.
cable. A friend of mine who's a lift engineer came and did all the cabling for me. So we put a massive proper cable in there that could give us potential loads for a lot more than actually what we need. But we actually have solar and battery as well. So um, it was just giving us that option if we needed to have that.
Yeah. So we've tried
Sometimes.
to kind of find like an in-between path because um, doing a full solar panel installation for a project of this scale means that you have to cover all the roofs with solar panels. And what you see if you go to the website is that we've really
Yeah, it's
tried
got
to
gardens.
blend our houses into
Yeah.
the natural landscape. So we've got green roofs. We will eventually also have, plants growing up the sides of the houses, because our vision is
Mhm.
that we create a garden with houses instead of houses with a garden.
Mhm.
And
Nice.
so I got the question about solar panels a lot. Um, and eventually, what I decided to do is the following, that in the standard, kind of in your basic situation, if let's say if you don't choose any optional packages, you will have probably one or two solar panels on your roof, and they will be connected mainly to your hot water system. Then we will offer a package, most likely, where you can add a home battery and a couple of extra solar panels, but we will limit it so that you don't cover the whole roof, so that we do keep that kind of green vibe going. And then
Mhm.
what I want to offer, which is kind of an extra on top of the project, is that once we have the community gathered, I want to put the proposal like, who wants to kind of invest more in solar energy, and we can buy a piece of land and nearby, and
Yeah.
make like a
Yeah.
solar park there, and feed off
That's a
feed
good
off
idea.
there. In the basic
Yeah.
situation, we're connecting to the grid and we have a few solar panels. You have the option to kind of extend that a little bit more, and then you have the option to go fully off grid if you would like, but that will require a bit more
Yeah.
community effort.
Yeah. We on our house here we have like 14 panels, so
Mhm.
I know what you're saying. Luckily, we have a big roof, but we've thought to add more because we have another part of the property which needs to be a little bit more off grid. So we've actually thought about sort of carports, that kind of
Yeah,
idea with hiding panels, and they serve both shade and also
shade.
energy
Yeah, and it's very
generation.
cool
And
because
I
you can
think it's
then
quite a
collect the
nice way.
water and start all sorts of projects with that as well.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I will say that energy prices I don't know whether it's just Portugal or the whole of Europe, but they do. I've noticed in the 13 years I've been here that they've
Hmm.
gone up
Hmm.
incredibly. And from my perspective, it's the unknown. I like to know. I like to have a sort of understanding in the next 5 years where my expenses are, so then I can either decide to work more or less.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
and the fact is that sometimes, like the gas will go up crazy, and then or I've my in-laws' family, their electricity can be about 200 euros a month, which
hmm.
is
Wow,
really
that's a lot.
crazy for
Yeah,
pensioners in Portugal. Yeah, and ours, because of the battery and the solar and all of these other kind of things, it does reduce that significantly. But I think a combination, a hybrid system like you're talking about, is probably the best way to go
yeah,
because you can balance it
yeah.
out.
And also,
We have
it's
extra
kind of the
remotes.
beginning of making you more conscious of how you use your energy. Um, because I think, my friend says that we've kind of gotten addicted to just plugging into the into the electric socket, and there's always
Yeah,
power. And you can get a bit
yeah,
careless, let's say. So
yeah.
when you have the solar panels and maybe you have like a little app that tells you how much energy you generated today and how much you used, it's just the beginning of becoming a bit conscious how much energy we use.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we put on things like the washing machine and any major electrical appliance like the we have a bomba calor, which is a
oh yeah,
heat pump water system, which is incredible actually. But we make sure that we even have that on in the middle of the day when the sun is at
yeah,
its highest and most powerful for our power
yeah,
generation. And we really don't use a lot of power, but we are conscious about it. Nighttime we shut everything off, and but I think that it's important, and I think these big national grid systems they have a limit.
yeah,
And we can see in recent events when we had what happened in Spain and Portugal when we
yeah,
had that crazy blackout.
yeah,
Everybody was like running around with headless chickens. They couldn't take cash out the ATM. They couldn't do this. They couldn't do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Everything started to go a little bit like apocalyptic after 2
yeah.
hours.
It's a bit of a wake up
There
call.
was
Yeah,
no. Yeah, and if I was some nefarious character that wanted to take over Europe, the first thing I would take out would be the energy grid. Because then you'll get rebellion.
Yeah, well, that's
You would have
that's
chaos.
also when you have a lot of people focused in one area. Um, you know, that life is only viable if all the resources are coming from outside that area.
Mm,
So, and I
exactly.
mean, I
It's
don't know
part.
if it
It's
was
one of
I
our
don't know if it was
reasons.
Switzerland, but I read recently about one of these European countries, and I remember it being like a country that you really think like, wow, they have everything organized. So it was probably Switzerland, and they had kind of blocked anybody with electric cars from charging because the grid was overloaded. Um, and it's, one thing is like having the security of knowing what the prices are of the electricity. The other thing is knowing that there's enough electricity at all. So
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
is an interesting time that we are living in.
yeah. And I guess it brings it back to again to sort of having a bit more of a community living project
Yeah.
idea. That I mean, basically here during that sort of chaotic time with the power grid, we were fine because we had our electricity, we had our batteries. We have the garden where we grow our own food. And we called our neighbor, the elderly farmers, to make sure they were okay. If we're going to go to the supermarket, did they need
Hmm.
anything? And they were like, no, we have a full freezer, deep freeze full of food. And they said, if not, we have like 100 sheep or 100 lambs out there that'll
Exactly.
last us
Yeah.
for a few years. And
Yeah.
so we can all get together as a local community and ride out these chaotic times. But I could not imagine what it must have been like living in the center of a
Oh
city.
my God. My
Um,
gosh.
you know,
Yeah, I mean,
but
the way that we try to approach this is that some people will really be kind of, let's say, fearful, and then from that energy they start like, oh, I have to be self-sufficient and so forth. And what I'm trying to
mhm.
do is that we don't create this fear like, okay, come and live with us because we will, if all the world
You're not
goes
preppers.
down, we will survive. But it's like you have to be practical and look around and see what's happening in the world, and also create some solutions for kind of the worst case scenario, let's say. And so we connecting to the grid, both water and electricity, but we are also creating our own systems, and we're creating the systems in such a way that if we would want to, we could easily expand them later on. So, for instance, with the water system, we're connecting to the grid, and every house has its kind of water filter to really, purify and energize the water. But then we're also creating like a large storage pond where we store rainwater and like natural filters, and then it runs down into the village like a little stream, and at the bottom it gets pumped back up. So we create the constant circulation of
Okay.
water. We are also looking at kind of in the same way that we want to possibly do like a solar park as a community effort. We're looking at buying up some land around us and creating like some farm projects and orchards and those kind of things. Um,
That would be great.
yeah,
Just simple allotments, of growing vegetables. You don't need much.
exactly,
It's like,
exactly.
I think it's
Yeah,
60 square meters, I think, for a family of three or four.
yeah.
And that's probably quite
And,
big.
and and you know what? Apart from the kind of practical aspect that it's good to have some control of your own food and energy systems, it's also fun. It just brings like
Mm.
it's like if you've just whatever renovated your bathroom for the first time and you did it yourself, it's a different bathroom than if you just got some guys to build it for you. And if you
For
grew
sure.
some tomatoes, that tomato tastes very different than the one that you bought in the
Oh,
shop,
yeah.
Um, so it's
Yeah,
also just
exactly.
like
Well,
bringing back the
it
fun of
saves.
life.
It's and it it saved me a Portugal minimum wage growing our own
Hmm.
food, and that's what it
Yeah.
saves me per month. Plus the added mental health benefits. I look forward to the evening times or the early mornings when I
Oh,
go
yeah.
out and just tinker around in the garden and do a little bit of weeding and bit of picking, and then plus the health benefits of eating this stuff, which has got no
No
chemicals or anything.
pesticides. Yeah.
It's just a win, 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 win. Actually, I was thinking you were talking about
Yeah.
gardening the walls of the
Hmm.
village. There are some really cool solutions for growing lettuce and salad leaves and rocket and stuff that you literally grow up
Oh,
walls.
wow.
You have little planting systems with gravity water feeds. You can have lettuce walls, you can have broccoli walls, you can have all sorts of kind of really interesting things like that. Just to save space, you don't necessarily need
Awesome.
flat ground.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, very fair. I mean, lettuce and salad leaves in Portugal, you can grow them all year round. And if in the summer, if it's a little bit in the shade, and when you go to the supermarket, you're buying a bag of lettuce which has been sprayed or whatever, and will be black in a couple of days. Just pick your own leaves and put it in a salad bowl. It's one of the most amazing
Oh, yeah.
things
I
and
mean,
biggest money savers that we do.
it's like if you pick something and 10 minutes later it's on your plate, it's like that food is still full of life energy, you know?
Mhm.
And no matter how well it's grown and organically and so forth, it's if you bought it in the supermarket, it's been on a truck and it's been in some storage facility and probably cooled or whatever, and it's just a totally different experience. Yeah.
Mm. And treated. It's often treated with stuff to
Yes.
preserve it. Even organic raspberries, they're allowed to spray it with. I'm not sure what the chemical. I can't remember the chemical now, but there is a chemical they spray on organic raspberries. Otherwise, there's a mold that happens in transport.
Yeah.
And the best way, if you want to eat raspberries, the best way is to eat them from frozen from
Uh-huh.
picked.
Yeah.
But it is physically, it's a biological fact that as soon as you pick a carrot, for example, it depletes in its vitamin content over time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like you're saying, the life energy, the vitamin content is pretty
Yeah. I
much the
mean,
same thing, right?
if you get on a bus for whatever 20 hours and you've been in that air-conditioned
Yeah.
space and you've eaten the whatever the little microwave food that they've given you or something, and you're a
Mm,
different person when you arrive at the other end. So
yeah.
so you can expect the same from another living organism that has gone through a similar process.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's part of the reason why my wife Rita, she's vegetarian, is because she feels, she doesn't have any problems with hunting and things like that or fishing,
Mhm.
but she says what for her feeling she can taste I'm not going to say abuse, but she can taste the shock or the adrenaline that an animal
Yeah.
feels in its death,
Sure.
which is kind of interesting take on it.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting.
but yeah. Yeah, yeah. She literally can taste it. She said it just doesn't. I just don't like the taste because of that. I can taste the adrenaline rush or whatever stress hormones that is released at the time of death.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
there
interesting
are
stuff.
like I don't know if it was like a story or some book I read or something. There was a guy who used to kind of sing to his plants every day, and and then it was apparently measurable that they were kind of in better shape and gave better fruits and so forth. Um,
Yeah,
So, I think it's a mistake to think that plants, don't feel pain and all that kind of stuff, and that they're just kind of these mundane objects that stand around. And,
yeah. That's very true. That's
plants,
very true.
animals, we ourselves, we're all connected to this beautiful and natural system, and the more that we disconnect from the system, from the natural system, the less vibrant and healthy we are. Whether it's plants
And more reliant.
whether it's plants standing in some huge greenhouse, all the same plants, uh, or whether it's chickens in one of these huge facilities, or whether it's people in an apartment complex, all scrunched together and watching TV most of their free hours. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's. I think the general theme in this project is like let's connect to life again, and let's do it as a kind of a collective, um, yeah, and just be happy and vibrant and healthy, as it was, some might say, as it was intended.
Because you're still using economies of scale.
Yes.
You're using economies of scale, but in the positive economies of scale. Because I fully understand, we have to feed the world, we have to do this but it doesn't seem to work, and it doesn't seem to have some sustainable longevity in feeding and farming the ways we do. I have a lot of conversations with my friend who's one of the biggest pomegranate farmers here in Portugal, and one of his goals is to take his fruit direct to the consumer without having to do any processing to it at all. At the moment, he sells it to a big supermarket in the UK, but it has to go through several stages. And for him, he just wants that nutrition, because he fully farms regenerative farming, and he wants to take his vitamins straight. You literally, somebody buys the pomegranate, he splits it and squeezes the juice for you.
Yeah.
That's his goal. That's his ultimate goal, because then you're using the natural encasement, you're using natural packaging, you don't have any waste, you don't have any plastic, you don't have any processing, you don't have any chemicals. And that is his goal. And I can see him often. He's dreaming about this.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and I think
he's enthusiastic, and you could say he loves his his product. Um, but the person he sells it to, let's just call it a middleman. That for that person,
it's a
it's just
commodity.
business, and it's a totally different energy that they're putting into it. And I'll tell you an interesting story. We were at y- well, how could I say? It's like one of these trendy old factory areas that's been turned into like a hip, cool space where all the green companies go and promote their stuff. And I was speaking. A lot of the companies that are located there are food companies, so small companies that will have either a food truck or some kind of special product that they've developed from whatever kiwi skins or something. And one of the guys was telling me that um, the large fruit and veg companies, import companies, were located there, and they were just throwing away these containers full of fruit, um, like on a daily basis. And
Mm.
part of the reason is that the large supermarket chains, they kind of contractually bind you and say, well, look, I just want to be able to pick up the phone, and then tomorrow you need to deliver, so and
I see.
such amount of bananas. So the only way that they can actually do that is by buying a whole lot of bananas and then knowing that they're going to throw away half of them. So that's crazy, in a world
It's
where,
crazy.
well, we don't have to go into the
People
dramatics,
are
but it's,
starving.
it's obviously
Yeah.
not the way that we want to live life, you know?
Yeah, it's so important that we understand and know this information, and again, it comes back to this whole thing we're talking about: is power to the
Hmm.
people, and I think as a consumer, we either need to go, not boycott supermarkets because they play a big role for people, but we need to go into these supermarkets and we need to put pressure on them to say, I want labeling. I want to know, is this apple grown in Alcobaça in Portugal, or is it come from South Africa? And because I don't need to eat, I can eat another seasonal
Yeah,
fruit like a melon
yeah,
that's come from Alentejo. I think what I really want, and I'm sure supermarkets are going to pick up on this very, very soon, and we still need to apply the pressure. We want to know the story and the journey of our food. Where does it come from? Where is it picked? Not some glossy picture of a guy, a farmer sniffing the carrot, and it's just some made up
yeah, that's the marketing.
picture he's
Yeah,
bought
the
from
window
the internet.
dressing.
you know, we want to see the truth, and we want to have evidence, and we want to see the scales of nutritional content and comparative to
Yeah.
other
Well, it's
produce.
getting in touch with
We need
the
to
kind of the
demand it.
small scale cycles and understanding where products come from. And the only way you can really like feel the understanding is by doing it yourself. And then I'm not saying that everybody must now go out and do everything themselves. Um, but we play a large role in creating the world as it is, because you're
Yep.
voting with your feet
Our
by going
convenience.
to the supermarket
Yep.
and buying the things that are not labeled correctly or whatever. And if enough people make that choice, without making it a big political thing, but if enough people make the choice consciously and personally, like, I don't want to be a part of this, then, the demand will change and then the supply has to change as well.
Yeah. It's very difficult. And I don't want to think this is intentional, but I often feel that perhaps taxes are difficult to pay because or bank loans are readily available, so that we get into this cycle that we have to repay the loans or we have to pay the taxes, so that we're distracted, our time is distracted, our energy is distracted from taking the time and the moments to shop somewhere
Hmm.
else. We're almost driven by these market forces to shop at a supermarket because we don't have the time or the energy to do it any
Yeah,
other
well, I
way.
tell you what,
Um, you know,
during,
and I don't
yeah,
want to
sorry.
think that this is a plan. I don't want to think this is a conspiracy to guide people into a certain way of living, but I am suspicious.
Yeah. Well, even if it is, um, you could probably tell someone and give them empirical evidence and they still wouldn't change their lifestyle. So, so the knowing of that is not necessarily the thing that will change anything. But I mean, for me, it's like during the pandemic, let's say, I was not allowed into the normal supermarket. So I ended up going to the Turkish supermarket and I never went back
Mm,
afterwards to the big supermarket,
yeah.
maybe for one or two items that are not available. But generally speaking, I love going to the Turkish supermarket because, the guy, it's his shop and it's a personal connection. Um, like you say, he knows where his products are from. Uh, he knows he knows what he bought them for. He knows what he's selling them for. He knows what the quality is. And the Turkish community is quite an interesting at that because, um, a lot of the women don't work, so their main focus is like, how am I going to get the best value for money, with the budget
Okay.
that they have for buying food. Um, and so
Mhm.
they will know like bananas cost this at this shop, but they cost that at the other shop. I mean, who knows that these days? It's most people just the convenience of going to the supermarket and just getting everything in one go has kind of taken that thought process away. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
I
I
think
like
it's
those kind
I
of
think the
old-fashioned
awareness
things,
is.
you know?
Yeah. I think we need to support them. I think our awareness is there. And like you said, maybe people are so wrapped up and like I was saying, like paying, it's a cost convenience type scenario. And I think probably the awareness is growing, but it's still like we're made to feel guilty when we go to the supermarket because we almost have to because we don't have time to do this or we don't have time to do that. We need to be earning money here. Um, yeah, but the good thing is the awareness is growing. And I think the more people gradually try to take these steps, like you're saying, you shop at the Turkish supermarket, the souk, or to the village store or
Yeah,
the more convenient
e-
store. Hopefully, they will get more revenue and they'll be able to grow their
exactly.
offering a little
That's
bit
that's
more, so
simple
it attracts even
economics,
more people.
and for us, that's also
Mm,
kind of what we're trying to do with Sat Village is to create a living example. And I'm not saying that we're kind of pioneering that. There are lots of other people doing really great work around the world. I think that in some aspects we may be a little bit different, in others we're the same. And but it's creating a living example that people can relate to. Because
mhm,
if I speak to whatever some friend of mine about, do you know where your food comes from and that it's treated with this kind of gas before it's shipped, and that gas is poisonous and blah blah blah. Most people kind of their eyes glaze over and they're like, yeah, whatever. I don't need to know all of this. So, but if you create an integrated lifestyle where, with like-minded people who have done the research and do understand, probably also in their field of expertise, what it means to do a good job, whether it's on food or mental
mhm,
health or exercise or construction or whatever, um,
yeah,
you're gonna just like walk into that village and the vibe is gonna be different and people
mhm,
might not even understand like what is this difference that I'm feeling, but it has a real effect it has an effect in the real world. And like for
yeah,
instance, with our buildings, we've chosen to use mainly ecological materials to build. because it's proven that you know, living in a house that's made of organic materials is beneficial for your mental health and for your physical health in all sorts of ways. And I mean, I personally, I've got quite a lot of experience also in hands-on construction. I haven't actually spoken about my background yet, but I'm a building engineer by trade, and I worked for construction companies like in construction management for years. And then actually in the evenings, I started my own little business, uh, doing small renovations and building custom furniture, custom cabinets. And it just gave me a totally different perception about materials because now I'm working with them hands on. And it's, it's not nice working with these chemical materials. For instance, the mineral wool insulation, these yellow woolly panels that we
Ah,
use
yeah,
for
itchy,
insulating
itchy,
buildings.
itchy.
I mean, if you work with that for a day, you're like, my goodness, how do people do this? Because these little fibers, they get hooked all over your skin and they itch and like your lungs are like heaving to get air, it's so
Mm.
like we're putting those materials in the buildings, which are the place that we spend, you know.
Circulating in the air, and we're breathing it in, and our lungs are filtering them out. Perfect.
And then, in many cases, the answer of society is, well, we need to put more technical installations in the building to then balance out and to make it healthy again. It's like, come on, guys, you're missing the point. If you use the right materials to start off with, you're already reducing a lot of the problems. Um, we don't need to add more technical installations and more problems.
This episode is brought to you by Flow Sports and Flow Grappling, the streaming platform dedicated for fans of grappling, rugby, basketball, volleyball, swimming, cycling, and much more. If you're into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you'll want to head straight to Flow Grappling. They stream all the major events, IBJJF, ADCC, WNO, and the Pan Ams. And yes, even the IBJJF European Masters, where you could have watched me win gold. Tap the link in the show notes or go to podcastportugal.com to subscribe and get access to all the action. Yeah, I mean, if I was to think about it from my own personal, let's say, time management for the day, if I live, for example, in your village, in Sat Village, I would save myself 2 hours of driving per day, taking Martin to his various activities. And so those 2 hours, rather than sort of, rushing around going to a supermarket, I could actually take a nice luxury walk around a food market or a local village market and select my food more, or in my case, I'd actually sort of farm it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Very interesting, so it's small, we can allocate time better, I think. And like what you're saying, having some sort of early learning center it's that village, I think that does play a big time factor in people's day. I know
Oh
from my
yeah,
experience,
sure.
for sure.
Sure, it's and what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the basic infrastructure and then get the right people in who who already, like I said, have done the research, they've come to their conclusions, and then in their field of expertise, they're going to add something really cool to the whole project. So maybe it's someone who knows all about kind of food forests and organic agriculture. Maybe someone knows about schooling. Maybe someone knows about childcare, and just try to get the best from what everybody has to offer.
Mm, I
Yeah.
can definitely recommend a really good jujitsu black belt there, who's a great instructor who would love to have space to
Great,
teach some of
great.
their kids. It's amazing for us. Like, we decided for Martin, because he's an only child, and to have a little bit of rough and tumble, but in a safe environment, to learn respect.
Yeah.
And we found like jujitsu is a fantastic world, to the point where the whole family does it now. So we
Oh,
all practice.
fantastic.
Yeah, and it's great exercise. It has a lot on sort of respect. It also the greater you travel along the belt journey, the greater you start to give to the people who are less experienced. So the more you go become a black belt, the more you help the white belts. You become a blue belt, you help
Yeah.
the white, and it's it's like what we're saying. It's a community, and we all have barbecues together. We have it just does. It's not just about rolling around on the mats. And all the egos are swallowed because when you have somebody lying on you, choking you, you have to learn to control your immediate reaction, which is to be aggressive.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
almost submit in the form of helping them learn their own jiu-jitsu technique. It's a very interesting dynamic, and I
And I
recommend it.
suppose it's very humbling knowing that there's sort of always someone out there who's still stronger than you.
Exactly. And usually those guys are the most mellow people you'll ever meet. They're never going to throw their
Exactly.
weight around because they just don't need to. Um,
No.
it's a cool thing. And I think, for kids, it's just a really good learning process because they need to roll around. They need to be physical. But they also need to learn, when they're hurting somebody physically or
Yes.
when it's too much. And yeah, so I recommend it. You have a community center. They just come in, roll out some mats, and the kids are all rolling around doing some nice animal
Sure. I mean,
exercises.
one of my big things is that I kind of hope because it's quite a stressful phase, this, let's say. Um, but I hope that once we've kind of settled in there and so forth, I want to really prioritize also my kind of exercise.
Mm.
And I have always thought, it would be so great if there are a couple of guys in the community who say, well, look, let's get serious and do every morning 1 hour or whatever.
Yeah,
And just really build yourself up because if you build your physical body up, your mental body benefits from that. Your spiritual body benefits from that, and it's just like a good foundation
yeah,
for anything you want to do in life.
yeah. It actually for me now, if I have moments when I'm not training, you start to get a little bit withdrawal symptoms, and you start to have this
Mm,
fear that you don't want to sort of get out of the habit of training. I had recently,
exactly.
and this is one of the things. It's a discussion that I've had with many people now about fragility.
Yeah.
Because I had an injury on
No.
my knee, which meant I was literally not being able to do anything for 2 months. And
Wow.
and it wasn't the physical injury; it was the mental injury that does to you. That you realize that you're fragile and that you have to repair. And you're dealing with all this mental sort of thing. I'm not exercising, and my leg is becoming weaker. Is it going to be, and it's the mental journey that, now I'm back on the treadmill and getting back onto when still doing jujitsu and training and doing some weights and stuff. But it's still, you realize that I'm 52, you realize your fragility. And I think it's also where the community come in, like I'm having with the jujitsu, like the guys will say, is your knee okay? Okay. I'm going to do this technique, but I'm not going to go anywhere near your knee.
Hmm.
It's part of the support. Like you get phone calls, how's your knee? How you doing? Whilst I was in bed suffering, but people are still calling me up, making sure I was okay. Um,
Yeah. Fantastic.
you know,
And that's the thing. Like, it's not like dominating your private life or anything, but it's just like, just showing some care
mhm,
and actually love in a way to each other.
yeah.
Care, yeah. Making the effort. My dad always says,
Yeah.
making the effort.
I've always wondered, and it is a question I'm going to ask you. It's like, what if you live on Sat Village and you don't like one of your neighbors? Maybe you could have some mediation, or
Yeah.
how.
Well, let me put it different. Like, it's a relationship, okay?
Mm,
And it's not as close relationship as with a family member or with your wife. But you know what? Maybe not all behavior of your wife is nice,
yeah,
or as you would like it. It
it's
doesn't
it's
mean
pretty
that
perfect, I
that
must say.
she's a terrible person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know we're on the air, so we have to be very careful what we say about our wives.
Yeah,
But just as a metaphor, like what, sometimes there might be a disagreement. Yeah, you have to find a way to get through it.
yeah.
Um, Yeah.
I think in this world, it's
It can.
unrealistic to believe that you're not going to step on somebody's toes.
Oh no.
And it's just
I
trying
mean,
to
I've
make
said
sure that
actually
you
in
have
one
the
of my
right
blogs,
intention.
like, we don't have to be a group of people who everybody thinks the same thing, and
Mm,
you know, we don't have to all be the same people.
yeah.
Um, but there has to be that kind of general respect
Hmm.
and understanding, kind of similar to what you also learn with martial arts,
Mm,
where where you make the effort to try and rise above the situation because you want the best outcome.
yeah. Out of conflict comes learning. Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good simile we have there because you have to have some. Well, you don't have to, but we don't grow as people if we live in a sterile environment and we're all the same or we're acting the same. We need to have different opinions because that's how we formulate better ideas and better ways.
Of course. Someone said the other day, um, the best ideas are formed by being constantly attacked.
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know and as long as the attacks are coming from someone who also is then willing to reflect on what he gets back,
Yeah.
if it's just someone spurting out information and attacking because they want to attack, that's a different thing.
Mm.
um but if
Comes.
it's two, like, let's say, conscious individuals who are able to self-reflect and no matter what have respect enough for the other to not start calling each other names and being childish,
Mm,
then you can do a lot. And that's the same in any relationship with a spouse or with your parents or with anybody. um
mm.
yeah,
I think that's it. It's intention, isn't it? So if you have,
it's
for
totally.
example,
Yeah.
the intention would probably be positive for everybody because they want, for example, in the Sat Village context, they want that to be a successful community. So everybody's
Yes.
intention, it might not be exactly the same or aligned, but the intention is a positive experience for all and for your project.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, I think that most people who resonate with the ideas of Sut Village, it comes from that fact that they feel they feel that intention. Um, yeah.
so you say you
So
have a selective process, but do you think in your selective process you'll actually accept somebody into the community who you feel you didn't like, or no, I'm not going to say didn't like, or you don't align with their ideas?
oh
Do you think?
yeah, I'll tell you a story very briefly. Um, uh, a someone I speak to regularly, he said to me, he used to have a painter's business, and he said to me, the people who gave him the most trouble in the beginning turned out to be the best workers. And the people who praised him in the beginning and said, "Oh, you're so great, blah, blah, blah," they turned out to be the worst workers.
Mm,
So, someone being critical or asking difficult questions or whatever, um, it doesn't mean you have to kind of keep that consciousness that you can interpret what they're saying as something which is helping the process, helping the project get better.
mm,
And, um, the people who are only praising and, you know, well, why are they not asking some critical questions?
yeah,
Hmm?
yeah,
So, I'm not by any means trying to gather a group of people to come and live in my village. It's like I'm trying to right now in the beginning get a small group of people um, who resonate with the basic framework, and then together with those people we will choose the rest.
yeah,
So it's also not just my opinion that's making that decision. It's a more balanced group of people with various ideas from various backgrounds. um yeah, because I think, you know by bringing those brains together, you get a better outcome than just me. I mean, I could have a bad day and get up in the wrong side of my bed and
mm,
uh, and make a bad choice for a community member,
yeah,
uh, or I could send away somebody who could be potentially really fantastic. So
mm,
so yeah, it's bringing together the collective to make those choices.
yeah. Interesting times for great minds, for sure.
Yes,
Well, Tristan,
indeed.
it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and as always on Podcast Portugal, we tend to open up more, and we get to talk about lots of interesting things, and get to know people and your project. And I wish you all the best with Sat Village. And what I'm going to do in the show notes, I'll leave a link to your website. It's satvillage.com. That's correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Perfect. And I wish you all the best with the project. And please keep in contact and show us and tell us how you're doing. And anything that you need when it comes to the pre-sales or whatever, just reach out to us and we can maybe make another podcast together at some point.
Great. Fantastic, Justin. It was very nice speaking to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
And we keep in touch.
Yeah,
Have a
pleasure.
nice day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal. Voices of Portugal, stories for the world. Out. Join our team. We are looking for advertising partnership managers. Podcast Portugal is expanding. Be the sales force behind our next big leap. We are looking for somebody who's ambitious and able to work remotely to drive exciting advertiser partnerships. You'll be rewarded with uncapped, commission-only earnings, potentially in the region of 3,000 to 6,000 euros per month. We're looking for somebody with B2B sales experience, top-level English, possible added bonus is Portuguese, fast professional email skills is a must. You can apply with a short video CV, and you can find the job description and the WhatsApp link to send the video on podcastportugal.com/careers. If shortlisted, you can showcase your sales skills by selling us a sponsorship. Good luck, and I really look forward to you joining our team.
I need a monster now.